Chapter 101, The Owner. Miao Wintong's lower lip wriggled as he secretly sighed inside. Then he pulled Tang Xiu's sleeve and whispered, Tang Xiu, don't mess with this auction. If you don't have enough money and fake the price, not only will you get fined with a huge collateral, but you will also get a terrible shot from this auction house. The big boss behind this Violet Redbud auction is a very powerful person. An outlined curve was revealed on Tang Xiu's mouth corner as he glanced at his phone screen, which displayed a short message. He then said with a faint smile, Relax, I will do nothing without discretion and consideration about my ability. Miao Wintong gasped, as he then gave up persuading him any further. He felt that Tang Xiu couldn't have that much money. Even if Tang Xiu was very powerful, but his age, after all, said otherwise. He was too young, in his 20s or so. Even if his family was very rich, it was impossible to transfer him that much. At the front row, a smile and proud expression on the fat middle-aged man's face froze in a flash. With difficulty, he turned his head, and the moment he saw Tang Xiu, he directly jumped from his seat and loudly snapped in a stern voice, Nonsense. He must intentionally be disturbing the auction. I don't believe he could put out 2.5 billion to buy this island. His words were what most people at the auction venue approved and agreed on as the talks then sounded again. Huh? How old is he? He's way too young. How could he possibly have 2.5 billion to buy that island? This auction is not a joke. Doesn't he know the consequences of orchestrating the price? Bah. Youngsters nowadays really have no discretion. The Nine Dragons Island's price to buy now is neither 250,000 nor 2.5 million yuan. It's 2.5 billion. Even amongst everyone present right now, I'm sure that 4 out of 5 of everyone's assets will not amount to this number. Has this kid's head been kicked by a donkey? Before this, the fat man had snatched the 1,000-year-old wild ginseng from him. Could it be that he harbors resentment and now intentionally increased the price? Hasn't he noticed that the fatty has reached his limit and cannot increase the price again? Foolish guy, I really don't know what he is thinking. For a grudge, even to open such a big joke, he probably is afraid to ride the tiger, it will Haemophilus. Fool. With his sharp hearing, Tang Xiu could clearly hear all the talks in the surrounding. However, he said nothing, and only the smile on his face was slowly fading away. The auctioneer, Xiao Ai's heart was full of worry right now. She was crystal clear about one thing. If Tang Xiu finally obtained the rights to buy the Nine Dragons Island and then turned out to be unable to put up so much money, then this auction would be doomed. Not only would she be unable to get her percentage of the sold auctioned items, it would smear and make her reputation in the auction business plummet. However, she was also perfectly aware of the fact that when the auction is being carried on, she had neither the rights nor the authority to inquire about the amount of money Tang Xiu had. What should she do now? With a helpless expression, the auctioneer, Xiao Ai, looked at the fat middle-aged man, before her vision fell on Tang Xiu. The fat middle-aged man glared at Tang Xiu as he loudly shouted once again, Miss Auctioneer, I suggest to make that kid prove that he has sufficient funds. Otherwise, not only will your auction house be thoroughly discredited, but you will also make all the auction's guests disappointed. The auctioneer looked deeply at Tang Xiu, as she finally replied to the fat middle-aged man with a helpless expression, Sir, I'm really sorry. I don't have the rights to do that. Tang Xiu blatantly ignored the fat middle-aged man and instead spoke to the auctioneer, Now I want to ask, if in any case someone makes trouble intentionally in the auction house, what kind of measure will your auction house do? For example, for someone who takes defeat with bad grace and becomes a sore loser. Such as this fatty who is just like a dog jumping the wall out of desperation. Fucking punk, you're courting your own death. The fat middle-aged man was burning with fury as he angrily glared and roared at Tang Xiu. The auctioneer Xiao Ai was very frightened as she quickly stepped forward and said, Sir, regardless if the other gentleman is able to buy item or not. Since he has already bidded, then our auction house will do the transaction about the auctioned item with him. Moreover, this matter is between our auction house and that gentleman, and you have no rights to interfere. Please go back to your seat, we will continue the auction. I would like to ask you, do you want to increase the price? The fat middle-aged man's complexion flushed crimson. He was filled with anger, but there was nothing he could vent his anger to. Although he did have some background and strength, but he didn't dare to go against this auction house. He could only choose to submit in humiliation and swallow his anger as he silently sat down. The auctioneer Xiao Yi felt relieved. However, when she saw the fat middle-aged man no longer bidded, she felt slightly disappointed, but still said, "Present offer for the Nine Dragons Island is 2.5 billion. Are there any other bids? If not, this Nine Dragons Island will be sold to that gentleman." No one spoke. Everyone looked at Tang Xiu as they wanted to wait for the result. Then, I hereby announce that the right of ownership for Nine Dragons Island is sold to the last bidder gentleman. Sir, please take your identity card and follow me to the backstage to continue with the transaction formalities. The auctioneer's vision fixated at Tang Xiu as she spoke with an anticipating expression. Tang Xiu got up and walked toward the back of the auction venue. The fat middle-aged man also suddenly stood up as he looked at Tang Xiu with a bitter and hateful expression as he exclaimed, "Everybody, don't go first. Let's follow backstage and have a look. I want to see whether this punk who still hasn't grown his hair can put out 2.5 billion. Yes. Let's go and see. Well, let's take a look at the results. Okay, let's go." No one chose to leave as everyone swarmed over toward the backstage. They really wanted to know whether Tang Xiu was able to put out that much money. If he really could pay it, they also could witness this sky-high price transaction. Miao Wentong and Xiao Mingjin looked at each other with forced smiles, as they also followed the crowd toward the backstage. If it were 1.8 billion, they were also able to amass the money to help Tang Xiu pay it. But such a huge sum of money of 2.5 billion, even if they wanted to provide it, it would be very difficult. At the auction venue backstage, the manager already knew about the whole processing matter. His eyes swept the crowds first before finally fell on Tang Xiu as he said with a smile, "Mr. Tang, congratulations." Tang Xiu nodded his head as he handed the bank card and said, "Transfer the money." The manager took the bank card and summoned several assistants as he quickly handled the transfer to the account. When 2.5 billion had been transferred, he immediately motioned his several assistants to help Tang Xiu finish the transaction procedures, filling purchase contracts, and other formalities. F for real. He really bought it? The fat middle-aged man was dumbfounded. The people who had secretly mocked Tang Xiu before were also stunned. They were staring with a dull expression at Tang Xiu, who was being guided by the auction house's staff to handle various kinds of procedures. Each and every one of them looked at each other in dismay, as embarrassment emerged out on their faces. Who told them to play with face? Tonight, this auction had shown what was called to play with face. The fat middle-aged man was so ashamed he almost looked for a spot to drill and bury himself into. Those other people also felt like as though they were mercilessly being slapped with an invisible pair of palms. Even Miao Wentong and Xiao Mingjin were secretly tongue-tied, confused, and felt ashamed for the first time. Thus, the Violet Redbud auction had finally ended satisfactorily. After having gone through various procedures, a large number of guests swarmed over to Tang Xiu to express their goodwill. Since these people had a very influential identity in the country, Tang Xiu didn't want to easily offend them, as he reluctantly greeted them and asked to be excused with difficulty. Then, he, Miao Wentong, Xiao Mingjin, and Dao Master Zi quickly left. Half an hour later, inside the presidential suite at the top floor of the 5-star Jarvis Hotel, Tang Xiu transferred back the 80 million loan to Jia Ruidao. He then called Chen Shizhong and asked for his bank account and transferred back 500 million to him. Now, there was only 90 million yuan left in Tang Xiu's bank account. 2.5 billion yuan in debt. After having handled these matters, Tang Xiu couldn't help but smack his own lips. The common saying might say that many was afraid to get bitten by lice, but they stopped worrying when debts were up to their ears. 1. But this sentence was but very inappropriate for Tang Xiu. He had always been making distinctions between gratitude and grudges, and marking the distinct line between private and others' rights. Although Chen Shizhong was his unofficial disciple, but their personal relationship was not to be mixed with their private property. And this money was not filial piety on behalf of Chen Shizhong for him. It is really imperative to accelerate the plan for making money. Tang Xiu went to the window as he looked at curtain of the night, watching the vault dome of as all kinds of thoughts surged up inside his mind. Quite a long time passed as he recalled something and left his suite room and went to knock on the next presidential suite. Inside the next presidential suite, Miao Wentong and Xiao Mingjin didn't directly go to rest as they were sitting in a bright-lit living room. Whilst smoking their cigarettes, they were chatting at the same time. Brother Xiao, I'm extremely curious about Tang Xiu's identity. The more I investigate about him, the more I feel that he is very mysterious to the point that it's unfathomable. Miao Wentong's eyes almost popped out as he said with a spooked tone. Xiao Mingjin smile, you're not the only to have this kind of feeling. I got some info that Tang Xiu comes from an ordinary family, a single-parent family at that, and no big background. The fact that I can't believe is that he became an idiot for a year after having been in a car accident. You tell me, could an idiot create such huge sensations? Miao Wentong nodded and said, his life story is simply like a piece of white canvas, even if some color filled the canvas recently. It was only his contact with the Long family from Star City. But the things I most want to know is, who is his master's school background? I did have someone investigate about it, but there's not the slightest clue at all. Xiao Mingjin nodded as he sighed and exclaimed, true. I really want to know where his teacher comes from. Such a powerful master who could teach such a powerful young genius. And tonight, he spent 2.56 billion yuan. This number, even for us, is a huge sum amount of money. But he can get it easily. That reminds me that I'm also very curious of the source from where he got that money. Miao Wentong's complexion moved and then asked. Should I ask someone to check it? I believe that he should be able to find the source of the money. Xiao Mingjin shook his head and spoke seriously, don't. Tang Xiu can get such a huge amount of money, and this implies that there's a powerful figure we don't know behind him. If he found out that we sent someone to investigate, I'm afraid that it will anger him. We only slightly know him and our friendship is not deep enough. And doing that will ruin it. It's true. Miao Wentong helplessly sighed. Xiao Mingjin then slowly spoke, we don't need to go as far as deeply investigating Tang Xiu's identity and such. The most important thing for us now is to deepen our relationship with him. And this will bring more benefits than disadvantages. Tomorrow we'll leave for the Evil Dragon Sea area. We'll have to fight side by side, and it's a good chance to deepen our relationship. We must grab this chance. Yup, it's a good opportunity to make a fortune. When Miao Wentong heard it, he replied with a grinning smile. Chapter 102, Humbly Asking for Guidance. Knock knock. The knocking sounds on the door interrupted Miao Wentong and Xiao Mingjin's conversation. They glanced at each other whilst a puzzled expression was cast on their faces. Who was knocking their door this late? Tang Xiu, you haven't rested? Miao Wentong opened the door and was surprised to see Tang Xiu standing outside. Tang Xiu said, there is something I wish to ask you. Miao Wentong replied with a smile, come in, let's talk inside. Shortly after, Tang Xiu sat on the opposite side of Miao Wentong and Xiao Mingjin, saying, Could the two of you tell me about your identity? Besides, tomorrow we will rush to the evil Dragon Sea area. We'll cooperate and fight together. And truthfully, I know nothing about the two of you. Miao Wentong smiled and replied, I'm Haiqing's Miao family's patriarch and also the president of the Miao group. My master is Daoist and Hui. He has passed away a few years ago and I'm now a loose cultivator. 1. Xiao Mingjin followed, I'm a free man, blown by the wind to drum and run a venture company. Originally, I was a martial artist, and only later on did I find half of an ancient manual about cultivation by chance. Only then did I begin to tread on the cultivation path. Tang Shou nodded and said, I'm a student and am about to participate in college entrance test. As for my cultivation path background, it's very complicated, so I could only tell the two of you later. Upon hearing Tang Shou's words, both of them were slightly disappointed. However, they were experienced people, and astute enough not to probe further. Tang Shou then told them his purpose for coming late and disturbed them as he then humbly asked, the two of you have been swimming for many years in society. Your identities are also not ordinary. So I would like to ask to the two of you, how do I manage a private island? This. They looked at each other. Although they had quite unordinary identities, but they don't have a private island, so how would they know about a private island's management? Tang Shou asked in astonishment, you two have no idea about it? Cough, cough, cough. Miao Wentong coughed dryly a few times as he then spoke with a forced smile, we do know nothing about it. However, I think that managing a private island shouldn't be a difficult problem. Nowadays, it's easy for the wealthy to handle things. You can spend a hefty sum of money to hire a professional steward and let him handle all affairs on the island. Steward? Tang Shou patted his forehead as he also secretly sighed. His head seemed to be muddled for a moment. He also had an excellent steward when he was in the immortal world, who had been following him for more than 6,000 years. Most of his domestic affairs were managed by that steward. The only thing left was that about the candidate. Tang Shou got quite a headache. Hiring a steward was a good method, but where would he find a loyal and competent steward or housekeeper? Who can also stay on an isolated island in the Pacific Ocean? Looking at Tang Shou's expression, Miao Wentong also understood his thoughts as he probed and continued, or I can help you find one, stewards from England are the best. As long as you have enough money, you can hire the most famous steward in the world. Tang Shou shook his head and said, well, let's forget this issue first and talk about it later. The next day, a freighter docked at Jingmen Island port, as it anchored and then set sail afterward. Miao Wentong arranged this cargo ship from his contacts on Jingmen Island. It was for transporting fierce beasts' bodies later. Apart from Tang Shou's group of 4, there were only more than a dozen ship crewmen and 2 chefs. The sky was clear blue, as the cool breeze was gently blowing. Tang Shou came to the stern alone and then sat cross-legged on the deck. He silently cultivated the heavenly art of cosmic genesis. Even though it was daytime, he could still absorb a faint amount of starlight. Inside his body the 9 spheres of stars quietly revolved as they released brilliant rays of lights, whilst absorbing the influx of star force. In the middle of cultivating, Tang Shou's complexion suddenly moved. Previously, he found that the star's energy he had absorbed didn't have any fire attribute attached. And today, the sun shined brightly and the power of the stars he was absorbing mainly came from the sun's lights, which brought along a trace of fire element. The heaven and earth divided into yin and yang whilst the universe is divided into 2 poles. The blending harmony of yin and yang will sculpt the unpolished gem into perfection. This idea emerged within Tang Shou's mind. The star's power he had absorbed inside his body became like a burning flame and boiled water as it began to crazily surge. The 9 spheres of stars transformed as it created a yin-yang formation pattern in the next moment, as the star force flared up and underwent a fundamental change. The star force turned into a fog-like appearance as the 9 spheres of stars swallowed at the same time, whilst spurting out streams of gloomy streams of qi. Tang Xiu easily controlled the stream current and directed it into his meridian channels. In accordance with the heavenly art of cosmic genesis, it began to revolve inside the root lines and crazily surged up. Hiss. Tang Xiu's body crazily trembled as piercing pains gushed out from his meridians. His meridian channels were as though thin tissues as they were easily torn, and created an opened breach in the channel. The gloomy qi easily filled it, nourishing and repairing the channel. Along with the influx of the gloomy qi, the newly repaired meridian channels began to expand, tear, and then get repaired again. The process continued once again and moved into an endless cycle. Tang Xiu lost touch with time and forgot everything about the world. Endless pain, he dared to say that never once had he encountered such terrible pains. The initial pain came only from his meridian channels and continued from the flesh and blood. Along with the passage of time, the pain struck him from everywhere. An indescribable pain was surging up from the depths of his soul. Thousands of stars in the depths of the vast universe vibrated together, even the dim planets without lusters, forming halos on their surfaces. The formation was as though a gigantic network as it released layer after layer of countless energy, spreading toward Earth with rapid speed. Boom. At this moment, the bottomless shining sun's brightness surged on Earth as the temperature was increased by 10 degrees in a short time of 7 or 8 breaths. What's going on? What happened? In every corner of the Earth, hundreds of millions of people looked up at the sky with a perplexed and bewildered expression. In southeast China waters, Tang Xiu was still sitting on a freighter as all the crews and chefs showed bewildered expressions. Heat waves were surging up and rolling as their bodies began to sweat heavily. They could clearly feel that the temperature in the surroundings was getting higher. What the fuck is with this deadly heat wave? Holy shit, it's too strange. What's going on? The temperature meter shows 37 degrees. Damn, the temperature is still rising, 38 degrees. 39 degrees. What the fuck is going on? Could it be that this is the end of the world? The temperature has risen to 40 degrees. What should we do? Continue sailing to the deep sea? Let's wait first. Inside the freighter cabin, Dao Master Zi, Miao Wentong, and Xiao Mingzhen quickly bolted outside the cabin. The moment they arrived at the deck and looked up to the sun in the blue sky, a horror and terrified expression was suddenly cast on their faces. This was the first time that they saw the sun this big, and also the first time they felt such an abnormal sun anomaly. It was as though torrential heat waves were sweeping down from the sky, causing the air temperature above the sea to become hotter. Spiritual qi fluctuation? In that instant, their complexion changed. They were cultivators and were able to keenly sense the spiritual qi in the surroundings. They could feel that a huge spiritual qi surged and flocked toward the back of the ship. Let's go. Miao Wentong shouted as his body was as though lightning bolted toward the aft in an instant. However, bursts of disbelief emitted from their eyes when they arrived at the aft deck, as their shocked eyes were tightly fixated on Tang Xiu. It's him? Miao Wentong's lips squirmed and twitched as if he was seeing a ghost in Tang Xiu. Had it been someone else, perhaps he could barely accept the fact. But the one who created such a worldwide phenomenon turned out to be Tang Xiu. Even though he was personally witnessing it, he still couldn't accept it. Xiao Mingzhen's body was trembling as he struggled with his shivering arm, pointing at Tang Xiu's back and involuntarily shouted, how did he do it? This scene, isn't it way too terrifying? The temperature keeps rising, it's not good. We can withstand this temperature, but the ship's crews won't be able to bear it. Miao Wentong was as if he sobered up from his dream. His complexion was as though someone who just had a tragic event. He felt that he must rush toward Tang Xiu and stop him. Don't. Dao Master Zi's eyes flashed as he moved in an instant to block Miao Wentong and spoke with a low voice, "Don't disturb him. Perhaps this is a huge chance for him. Let's send the crew to leave first and then come back." This? Miao Wentong and Xiao Mingjin quickly glanced at each other, and then tacitly nodded as they used their movements to the fullest toward the cabin. After knowing that the ship had spare boats, they immediately brought the sailors and the chefs to board the boat and sailed away to the distance. Half an hour later, by using life-saving vests, the three of them then returned to the freighter. "Dao Master Z, what should we do now? Tens of nautical miles away, the temperature is not as high as here, but it's already close to 40 degrees. The temperature here is at least 50 degrees. If this keeps going on like this, I'm afraid we won't be able to withstand it either." Miao Wentong was standing on the deck 20 meters away from Tang Xiu as he spoke with a wry smile. "Practice and cultivate." A strange expression was revealed on Dao Master Z as his fingers pointed to the air and crossed. Miao Wentong and Xiao Mingjin frowned. Cultivate? Meditate here? At this time? What joke was this? Dao Master Z sat cross-legged as he spoke in a clear low voice, "Are the two of you really idiotic? Do you want to waste such a good opportunity to meditate and cultivate here? The temperature indeed is very high, but we can still withstand it. Aren't the both you experts who have been practicing for decades? You can't sense the spiritual qi concentration in the air?" Miao Wentong and Xiao Mingjin's bodies shook as joyful expressions immediately emerged on their faces. Yes. They really could feel the surging, rich spiritual qi. The spiritual qi concentration here was 10 times higher than any other places. Cultivating under this condition would be much faster than their usual practice. Practice. They immediately sat cross-legged and began to meditate and cultivate. Such a heaven-sent opportunity like this was not something that they wanted to miss. They were cultivation geniuses to begin with. After having challenged the 1,000 revolution array, they had long wanted to calm their minds and peacefully cultivate, striving to break through their cultivation level. Chapter 103, A Huge Surprise. Beijing. Skyscraper buildings were as though giants' feet treading on the ground, with the top their heads up in the blue sky. Inside one of the buildings, Andy walked with her high-heeled shoes and opened an office door. Her height was only 1.58 m, with a Westerner doll-like face, looking delicate and lovely with the contrast of a bust and uplift magnificent plump chest. A lowly face, but a proud lovable Lolita. Andy held a folder on her chest as she came to the desk and knocked on the tabletop, saying, "Boss, the lab's test results have come out." Kong Xia suddenly got up from behind the desk. Whilst taking the folder handed by Andy, she spoke with a deep voice, "What of the results?" Andy said, "No harmful substances. Chinese medicine ingredients with very strong efficacy." Really? Happiness was revealed on Kong Xia's face as she quickly opened the folder. Andy sat down on the chair in front of the desk and said with a laugh, "Of course it's real. The examination reports have clearly stated it. And according to your orders, I also have registered the company at the Bureau of Trade and Industry. The legal owner is Tang Xiu, and for the shares agreement, you need to sign it privately." A thoughtful light of wisdom flashed across Kong Xia's eyes. After having read the documents, she then spoke with a deep tone, "We might have to move from this city since the new company headquarters will be set up in Star City. The first phase of our work is recruiting cosmetics researchers and scientists, renting factories, registering the trademark brands, and packaging the two products. The company and the first phase preparation must be set up within these 2 months." "Okay." Andy made a no-problem hand gesture as she said with a sweet smile, "I've been idling for a few months, so we can start the first phase. I think that those two guys, Jack and Cruz, absolutely will jump over happily. They must be praising the god loudly and our future big boss. Kong Xia shared the excitement as she spoke in a high-spirited voice. Big boss is interesting, extraordinary at that if I may say. Besides, this is the first time I'm this excited and full of fighting spirit in entering a new workplace. I have long been unable to feel this kind of feeling, but it now has come back again. About the man who was about to become her boss, Andy was also full of curiosity. Watching a full of fighting spirit Kong Xia, she curiously asked, "Boss, shouldn't you contact the boss? It seems like you have yet to give him a definite answer, right?" Ugh. Kong Xia's complexion froze for a moment as she took out her mobile whilst speaking with a smile. Damn, how could I forget about this matter? I'll contact him right now. After a moment, a slight anger appeared on Kong Xia's face as she threw her phone on the desk and said, "The phone won't get through. I'll call him tonight. You prep all of our things in Beijing. We'll leave for Star City in 2 days. Consider it done." Andy jumped out her chair, and as though an arrow as she rushed to the outside. South China Sea waters. The stopped freighter was enveloped with surging torrents of heat waves. A large number of fishes in more than the 10-kilometer perimeter had all been swimming away to all different directions. At this moment, Tang Xiu's mind was bright and clear. He unceasingly meditated and cultivated in accordance with the cultivation technique's root lines, in the heavenly art of cosmic genesis. Although the 9 spheres of stars inside his body were motionless, they were constantly absorbing the incoming influx of spiritual qi from all directions and the star force from the stars and universe, absorbing, revolving, and transforming. Grayish and gloomy matter finally formed. Tang Xiu named it Star Force. This energy was just like true essence qi other cultivators were cultivating and was also similar with immortal force for cultivators, who cultivated immortal cultivation techniques. It was basically the foundation and source of energy for cultivators. The star force inside Tang Xiu's meridians surged and expanded his meridians' channels width as well as tempered his meridians' toughness. It was a painful process, but the result made Tang Xiu very happy. 10 meters away from Tang Xiu, Dao Master Zi, Miao Wendong, and Xiao Mingjun also sat cross-legged meditating on the deck, going all out to absorb heaven-earth spiritual qi which drifted away in all directions. Although their absorbing speed was very fast, but it was not worth mentioning, and simply a minute was though a drop in the bucket for the rich and thick spiritual qi in the surrounding. Puff. Miao Wentong was the first to open his eyes as an intense surprise stirred inside his eyes. He looked at Tang Xiu with eyes full of gratitude. Breakthrough. It had been nearly 2 years since he had been stuck at the previous stage. No matter how hard he had been cultivating before, he always hit a wall in breaking through the next stage. The spiritual qi concentration in this place perhaps could be compared to the legendary immortal cave in Fairyland, couldn't it? Miao Wentong's heart was filled with satisfaction as he secretly praised with admiration. Half an hour later, Xiao Mingjun also awoke from his meditation. Because he also just had a breakthrough in his cultivation stage, he was full of ecstasy, and also felt a deep gratitude toward Tang Xiu. Did you also have a breakthrough? Miao Wentong's complexion moved as he whispered to ask. Xiao Mingjun was astonished and said, "Did you also?" Miao Wentong nodded and said, "Practicing and cultivating in this environment rich with spiritual qi is really half the effort with double the result. Having been stuck for 2 years, I was finally able to break through." Xiao Mingjun turned around to look at Tang Xiu as he said with a smile, "We now owe Tang Xiu a huge debt. If it was not for him, we wouldn't know when we would be able to break through." Yes. Miao Wentong agreed. Previously, I thought that it would at least take a few years of time, so I didn't expect to break through right now. Shortly after, Dao Master Zi also awoke from his meditation with a grateful expression in his eyes as he glanced over at Tang Xiu, before his vision finally fell on Miao Wentong and Xiao Wentong. He then spoke with a laugh, "Congratulations for the 2 benefactors." Miao Wentong laughed, "We should say the same." Dao Master Z replied with a smile, yes, if it wasn't for Benefactor Tang, this poor Daoist would perhaps be unable to break through in such a short time. It's just that, this one is really clueless. What kind of cultivation technique has Benefactor Tang been cultivating? It even caused such a big phenomenon. In the evening, the sunset had fallen in the west horizon, as the sea surface reflected the sunset lights from the red sky in the west horizon. The extremely hot temperature in daytime also gradually receded. Tang Xiu, who was still meditating, awakened from his practice along with his trembling eyelashes. The three of you. A sudden confused expression was revealed on Tang Xiu's face after seeing the three people nearby. Miao Wintong's figure flashed and appeared in front of Tang Xiu. With a bright smile hanging on his face, he said, "We have long finished our meditation, and we're waiting for you to wake up from your cultivation practice. Originally, I thought that you'd need a few days to finish cultivating. I didn't expect that you'd finish it now." Tang Xiu got up and said, "It's just that I had been struck with enlightenment, so it took me a long time to meditate." "Have we arrived at the Evil Dragon Sea area?" "We haven't." Miao Wentong shook his head and wryly smiled. Tang Xiu was puzzled and replied, "How long have I been practicing?" "It is already evening, how come we haven't arrived at the Evil Dragon Sea area? Isn't it only 1,000 nautical miles away?" Miao Wentong pointed at the sea and was at a loss as he didn't know what to say, before he exclaimed, "Haven't you noticed that the freighter has stopped? If you hadn't finished practicing, the three of us would have been ready to pick up the ship crew dozens of nautical miles away and send them back." "What happened?" Tang Xiu didn't know what kind of circumstances his practice had caused as he immediately asked curiously. A while after having listened to Miao Wentong and Xiaomingzhen's narration, Tang Xiu was dumbfounded and tongue-tied as his mood fluctuated. He had never dreamed that he would even cause such a worldwide phenomenon. Yes. My cultivation. Tang Xiu immediately used his spiritual sense to observe his body's condition. The 9 spheres of stars had turned brighter, with dazzling rays of light illuminating the space inside his dantian. A large number of grayish and gloomy star force surged as it linked each unblocked meridian channels inside his body. Moreover, all the bones, blood vessels, internal organs, and muscles had all been quenched. Whether it was flexibility or strength, all had been enhanced and had a qualitative leap. It was as though every part of his body was brimming with explosive power. He was once a supreme in the immortal world and was especially keen in accurately gauging strength. He gently waved his fist and could feel the degree of strength he possessed right now. It was 6,000 pounds. He nodded with satisfaction. 6,000 pounds of strength meant that his strength had been promoted twice from last time. He originally had to achieve the peak of the skin-strengthening late stage before his strength was enhanced to 6,000 pounds. But even if he had yet to break through into the skin-strengthening stage, he already had such powerful strength. By the time I have reached the skin-strengthening late stage, to what degree will my strength increase to? Tang Xiu secretly looked forward about it inside his heart. More than an hour later, the 4 of them used GPS devices and found the crew and cooks who had been starving all day long and took them back to the freighter. They didn't explain the phenomenon that happened today and only told them that their rewards would be doubled when they had finished the assignment. The next day in the evening, the freighter rushed to the Evil Dragon Sea area and found a small marine trench in the middle of 3 islands. However, because it was night, they didn't immediately rush to find fierce beasts but drank and ate to their full in order to conserve their strength and spirit, waiting until tomorrow dawn before they moved again. A chilling wind was blowing as the shadow of the moon whirled and danced. Tang Xiu was standing on the bow deck, looking at the distance toward the nearby islands. He somewhat sensed a dangerous feeling. He couldn't clearly explain what kind of dangerous feeling it was. But it indeed existed. He could tell that there should be a terrifying and ominous existence on the three islands. It was the kind of fierce existence the present him was unable to face right now. Moreover, the others might be unaware of it, but he could sense death chi nearby, and it was much stronger than any other places. This meant that a large number of humans or beasts had died here. The heaven's blessing is immeasurable. Benefactor Tang wants to see the island? Dao Master Z silently appeared at Tang Xiu's side as he spoke with a smile. Tang Xiu shook his head and said, "In the next few years, maybe I will rush to the three islands. But now, it's not that I want to go, but I don't even dare to go there." "Why would you say that?" Dao Master Z asked with a confused expression. Tang Xiu said indifferently, "There's a large feng shui array formation on those three islands. This formation array is extremely abstruse and wonderfully deployed. If someone landed on the island, he would be fine as long as he moved around the periphery. But once he rushed deeper, perhaps he wouldn't be able to return." "Is that real?" Dao Master Z originally planned to go to the island to hunt. However, after hearing Tang Xiu's words, a sense of danger immediately sprouted in his heart. Tang Xiu was after all someone who was able to break through to the 6th layer of the Thousand Revolution Array, which meant that his attainment's information arrays were definitely terrifying. If what he said was true, then he really couldn't go deep into those three islands. "Yes," Tang Xiu calmly replied. For a long while, Dao Master Z was silent, before he spoke with a wry smile. "In that case, we can only move about its periphery." In fact, this poor Taoist knew from an ancient book that the fierce beast's level on those three islands is much higher compared to the fierce beast's level in this marine trench. Chapter 104, Hunting and Killing Fierce Beasts. Tang Xiu shrugged his shoulders and calmly said, "One must do what one can. Even if high-level fierce beasts brings more advantages to us, but still, we have to stay alive to enjoy it." "True." Dao Master Z lightly swayed his duster with an approval expression on his face. He has been living for quite a long time and was very old. Countless of times, he had seen people rush for treasures that cost them their lives. It was as people said, money is a good thing, but to end up dead after obtaining it is the most sorrowful thing. After having turned silent for a while, he looked at Tang Xiu and said, "Benefactor Tang, this poor Taoist has something that has confused this one for a few days and wants to ask you." "May this poor Taoist ask you?" Tang Xiu said, "Please do ask." Dao Master Z then asked, "Benefactor Tang's cultivation shouldn't be high, but why can you cause such a terrifying phenomenon like yesterday?" This poor Taoist has read a large number of ancient literature as well as the records about cultivators, but never once has anyone could cause such a worldwide phenomenon. Tang Xiu said, "I don't know about it either." Dao Master Z quietly waited and observed Tang Xiu for half a minute. After having seen the expressionless face Tang Xiu had, he secretly sighed inside, and then said, "Since Benefactor Tang doesn't know about it, then let's just forget it. This poor Taoist won't disturb Benefactor Tang any longer, and will go to rest first." "You can't rest right now." Tang Xiu's eyes suddenly focused at the distance and lightly said. Dao Master Z's eyebrows slanted and asked, "Benefactor Tang, why do you say such a thing?" Tang Xiu pointed to the distant sea and said, "More than 10 fierce beasts are approaching from the sea a kilometer away from us. Our freighter is anchored on the shore and the lights clearly have attracted them. Call Miao Wendong and Xiao Mingjin to come out. We need to lead those fierce beasts away." Dao Master Z asked, "Why should we lead them away?" Tang Xiu lightly said, "If you want your identity as cultivator to create a huge buzz, then you can freely fight those fierce beasts at a close distance here." "The crewmen?" Upon hearing it, Dao Master Z realized in that instant. Tang Xiu turned his eyes and looked at Dao Master Z's back before he quickly returned to his cabin. He took the things he had prepared and then jumped down from the bow. With a flick of his toe, he lightly tapped on the sea's surface and then landed on the shore in just 2 breaths of time. With his fast speed, he traversed 10,000 meters along the coastline and began to quickly lay down formation arrays. Before the upcoming scene, he drew paper talismans and also prepared a lot of jades as the array's foundation. Even before he had arrived, he already had the thoughts to use formation arrays. Defense array. Magic array. Killing array. Combining these 3 kinds of powerful energy into one formation array. It was the simplest and easiest formation to arrange, the magical killing array. Deploying this kind of formation array neither needed spiritual force nor cultivation level. When he was at his peak in the immortal world, he simply did not need anything. With a wave of his hand, he could create a pattern in the void and was able to deploy a terrifyingly powerful array in a flash. 2 minutes later, Tang Xiao had successfully arranged the magic killing array and used half of the jade and paper talismans. Whiz! Tang Xiao's figure flashed. When he was about to return to the freighter, he saw Dao Master Zi, Miao Wentong, and Xiao Mingzhen on the coastline. Dao Master Zi was holding his duster with a solemn expression, Miao Wentong with his sword and looked like a firm and steady empty Tai, and Xiao Mingzhen had a long blade with thick murderous intent. Gentlemen, where are those fierce beasts? Tang Xiao had patrolled the sea area, but he couldn't find any trace of fierce beasts. Miao Wentong pointed to the sea in front and then said, they dove down and have yet to attack temporarily. All the crewmen are asleep and I have switched off the entire ship's electrical power. Those fierce beasts can only guess the freighter's approximate position, so they haven't attacked. Tang Xiao said, what are those fierce beasts? A touch of forced smile appeared on Miao Wentong's face as he said, white alligator. It's a pre-sociality white alligator. White alligator. Tang Xiao looked at Miao Wentong with a puzzled expression and asked, are these fierce beasts very powerful? Is their level very high? He had roamed through the immortal world and knew the fierce beasts class's distinction. However, about Earth's fierce beasts, he did not know whether there was a distinction regarding their classes. Miao Wentong then said, they're a second-class fierce beast and are very strong. If I encountered one of them, I could perhaps face it. But if I have to face 2 or 3 second-class fierce beasts, I'm afraid that running away is the only option for me. Tang Xiao said, explain to me about the fierce beasts class's distinction. You don't know about it? Miao Wentong asked in astonishment. Tang Xiao shook his head and said, I'm not too clear about it. Miao Wentong said, fierce beasts are divided into 3 classes. The ones which just opened their spiritual wisdom would have their strength and speed greatly strengthened are first-class fierce beasts, and also called as junior fierce beasts. The second class has the intelligence of an 7 or 8-year-old child, and are able to fight 10 first-class fierce beasts easily. The third-class fierce beasts have a mature spiritual wisdom and are absolutely a terrifying existence and very rare in numbers, with extremely powerful attacking power. Even if Brother Xiao and I were to join together, we perhaps would be unable to fight these third-class fierce beasts. I have never come across third-class fierce beasts, and have only encountered second-class fierce beasts twice. Since my cultivation was not high back then, I could only run away in both occasions. Dao Master Zi shook his head and said, there are also the 4th-class fierce beasts. I have seen the records in the ancient books. There are records in history that 4th-class fierce beasts had appeared and scourged the world. The 4th-class fierce beasts are called monster beasts. Not only is their body strength and speed enhanced to the point of terror, but they are also able to control the force of nature and cast magical arts or spell. It really exists? Shocked expression revealed on Miao Wentong and Xiao Mingzhen's complexion. Dao Master Zi said, yes. Tang Xiao said, I understand. Then, we need to be vigilant and pay attention to our safety. Once those white alligators appear, we will immediately direct them to the left side, 10,000 meters along the coastline. I've arranged a formation array there, so it would be much easier to hunt and kill them. Great. The three of them were overjoyed. 10 minutes later, Tang Xiu and the three others' complexion changed, because more than 20 white alligators were surfacing from the sea. Those white alligators' body was snow white and their bodies were a few times bigger than that of ordinary alligators. The fierce beast number is way too many. We cannot delay and entangle them. We need to quickly to lure them into the formation array Tang Xiu has deployed. Dao Master Z said with a grave expression. Xiaomingzhen leaped up as his body was as though an arrow as he bolted toward those white alligators. The long blade in his hand quickly slashed ruthlessly at the frontmost white alligator at 10 meters away. Boom. That white crocodile had long been aware of the bolting Xiaomingzhen. Its body quickly fell down to dive, trying to avoid Xiaomingzhen's strike. However, Xiaomingzhen's speed was extremely fast as his long blade split open the sea's surface and directly hit the white alligator's back. Even though Xiaomingzhen did his best with his long blade, his wrist was numb and was unexpectedly only able to break the white alligator's scales, giving it some injuries but did not directly kill it. More than 20 white alligators nearby locked onto Xiaomingzhen as their target at the same time as they swarmed over toward him. Leave. Xiaomingzhen did not prolong the fight and instantly rushed back. Tang Xiu strode fast like an arrow whilst clamping a yellow paper talisman in his hand. The moment Xiaomingzhen was rushing back to the shore, he poured his star force through his arm into the paper talisman and instantly released it. A localized lightning was suddenly cast 10 meters in front as it quickly branched out and struck at a few white alligators that chased in the back. Plop, plop, plop. The scales of those few white alligators were torn to pieces by the lightning, as sorrowful and miserable howls followed. At the same time, a few branched lightning hit the seawater. Since water had a conductor characteristic, the electrical power suddenly made a few white alligators in the surrounding froze for a moment and slowed down their speed. Lightning symbol? Xiaomingzhen and the other two's complexion changed, as their eyes looked at Tang Xiu with a blazing expression. Although they were people who also walked on the cultivation path, they were unable to draw magical symbols and could not manufacture these legendary lightning symbols. Do not fall into a daze. Those white alligators have been enraged, lure them into the formation array I have deployed. Tang Xiu quickly rushed back as he hurled toward the left side of the coast. Within nearly 10 minutes, the four of them strove hard and spent a lot of effort. Only after 24 white alligators had approached within 10,000 meters of the magic killing array did Tang Xiu step into the formation, as he shouted with a deep tone, "The three of you quickly follow me. Pay attention to my steps and tread on my footprints." Okay. Although the three of them did not know the might of formation array arranged by Tang Xiu, but they did not dare to be negligent as they followed behind Tang Xiu in accordance with his instructions, and stepped into the magic killing array. 24 white alligators quickly crawled out from the sea extremely fast. The speed was even faster by several folds than that of an ordinary person's. In just a few breaths, they already rushed into the formation array. Inside the magic killing array, Tang Xiu quickly explained the most basic line routes to move inside the formation array to the other three and then rushed alone, to hide in the core position. Although his strength was enhanced by 2 folds, but he was still unable to contend with second-class fierce beasts. If he did not use his lightning symbols, even if he could kill a white alligator, he would perhaps have to pay for it with his life. Tang Xiu stood still at the array's core as he looked at the white alligators inside the magic killing array. They were as though leaderless houseflies that have been scattered all over the place, as a curved line was revealed on his mouth. At his position, he could clearly see all the scenes inside the magic killing array, but the others and the white alligator could not see him. Xiaomingzhen and Miao Wentong's fighting strength was quite astonishing. Although, in Tang Xiu's eyes, their movements were rough and did not know how to fight with fighting techniques and strategies, but due to their high cultivation, their strength was greatly enhanced. They constantly fought together to face one white alligator because they knew the magic killing array's killing technique characteristic, and completely moved accordingly to Tang Xiu's instruction. Thus, they were not hit by the magic killing array's killing strikes, unlike the unlucky white alligators. Inside the magic killing array, sword blade light projections appeared out of thin air with each and every sword blade strike, adding injuries to the white alligators. As for Dao Master Z, he constantly waved the duster in his hand. Every time his duster hit a white alligator, a bang sound could be heard. It was obvious that every blow sent by Dao Master Z was lethally powerful. Half an hour later, the 24 white alligators had all been killed. Xiao Mingxin, Miao Wentong, and Dao Master Z also had received some minor injuries. Tang Xiu removed the magic killing array as he glanced over the white alligators' corpses everywhere. A satisfied smile appeared on his face since according to their agreement, all the killed fierce beasts would be divided equally, which meant that he would get 6 white alligators' corpses. One second-class white alligator's body could aid his cultivation into the skin-strengthening late stage. As for the remaining 5 white alligators' corpses, he thought that it would be enough for him to cultivate into the flesh-strengthening and bone transformation stage. Chapter 105, A Warm and Caring Mother. Benefactor Tang, our luck is really good. We just arrived here and have hunted and killed so many second-class fierce beasts. I think it's already sufficient. Then, shall we return? Dao Master Z went in front of Tang Xiu as he wiped off a trace of bloodstain on the corner of his mouth, asking with a smile. Tang Xiu asked, "Aren't you still looking for precious ores?" Dao Master Z said with a wry smile, "If we want to find precious ores, we need to enter the depths of the island. Benefactor Tang doesn't fear to encounter danger on the island?" Tang Xiu stared blankly for a moment before he gave up his intention to look for precious ores. Although catching a tiger cub, one must enter a tiger den. But if one had known perfectly well that it would only lead to his death and was still impatient to get it, then he was either not sane in the brain or sleepwalking. And Tang Xiu neither had brain damage nor was he sleepwalking. He would not bite more than he could chew and do something out of his capabilities. At least, he would not do it now. After having been silent for a moment, Tang Xiu said seriously, "Such being the case, then let's go home. We'll load these 24 white alligators onto the ship first." Although Miao Wentong had minor injuries, but he was still in deep excitement. Upon hearing Tang Xiu and Dao Master Z's words, he hastily said, "Going home like this? Although we have hunted and killed 24 fierce beasts, but we have just arrived. It would be quite a waste if we go back now. I just talked with Brother Xiao, if we stay for a few more days and look for fierce beasts again, we can kill more." Dao Master Z shook his head and said, "Encountering this white alligator group is our luck. This evil dragon sea area might have other fierce beasts, but the population is not that many. This group of white alligators are territorial strong fierce beasts. I think they would not tolerate other fierce beasts living here. If this poor Daoist's inference is correct, other fierce beasts in these waters might have been killed or driven away by this white alligator group." Miao Wentong was speechless. If it were Tang Xiu who said it, perhaps he could refute a bit, since Tang Xiu was after all too young and had too little experience. But Dao Master Z was older than him and he had experienced a lot of things. Regardless of experience or character, he was someone that he respected. Xiao Mingxin said with a laugh, "Since Dao Master Z has said so, then let's go back. There are 24 second-class fierce beasts, so it would be 6 for each one of us. That's satisfying enough." Miao Wentong was somewhat unwilling as he said, "But we have yet to get the precious ores. Wasn't Dao Master Z the one that said that there are precious ores on the island nearby?" Dao Master Z replied, "They indeed have it. But Benefactor Tang predicts an ominous existence on these 3 islands. So, rather than disbelieving it, I chose to believe his words." We must not be greedy and become a greedy man who's never content because of greediness. Then, let's go back. Miao Wendong didn't want to be despised as a greedy man and said decisively, even though he actually had a slight disapproval. His heart was in disapproval. Human beings would die for riches just as birds would for food. In any case, crises and opportunities had always been coexisting whenever dangers and riches were involved. 2 hours later, all the 24 white alligator corpses had all been loaded onto the freighter. Upon seeing those white alligator corpses, all the crew members were shocked. But since Miao Wendong had them under a sealed contract and promised some rewards, they treated it as though they did not see anything. On the way back to Jingmen Island from the South China Sea, Tang Xiu asked Miao Wendong and the others about Jingmen Island's medicinal herb market situation. And the results made him quite surprised. Therefore, after having returned back to Jingmen Island, Tang Xiu entrusted Miao Wendong to ship the white alligator corpses to Southgate Town in Star City, while he went alone to Jingmen Island's medicinal herbs market. Since mountains, rivers, and a lot of natural places had developed all over the country's mainland, a lot of precious herbs became extinct nowadays. But Jingmen Island was different because it was located in the South China Sea with a lot of islands nearby that were still untouched by human hands for many years. They still had a large number of medicinal, precious herbs growing there. Once they were picked up by humans, it would be shipped first to Jingmen Island's medicinal herbs market. Therefore, Jingmen Island's medicinal herbs market size was on par with Beijing and Shanghai medicinal herbs market. Occasionally, there were also extremely valuable herbs, which made countless big buyers and medicinal ingredients merchants flock toward the market. Neat and clean. This was the first impression Tang Xiu had when he arrived at Jingmen Island's medicinal herbs market. Booths were placed on both sides of the wide street, with their owners behind the booth greeting all the visitors. Tang Xiu had seen the medicinal herbs market's layout, and the entire market was divided into 4 areas indicated with A, B, C, and D. Area A and B belonged to the booth area, 2 areas and 4 streets, with more than 1,000 medicinal ingredient stalls. C area and D area belonged to the shop area, which also had 4 streets, but with only 500 shops. There was still 90 million yuan in Tang Xiu's account. This might look like a huge number, but it was actually few if he wanted to buy a lot of precious herbs. A 1,000-year-old wild ginseng was already extremely expensive to the point that it was appalling. And as for other precious medicinal ingredients, the price probably would not differ by much. Therefore, Tang Xiu strolled around in the booth area. The last time he was in Star City's medicinal herbs market, he got an extremely precious herb there, the blood spiral shell flower. This time, he wanted to buy a large number of medicinal herbs. On one hand, he had to collect medicinal ingredients to concoct the golden bell liquid, and on the other hand, he also had to buy medicine ingredients to concoct the spirit condensation pill. Whether it was the golden bell liquid or the spirit condensation pill, Tang Xiu knew that it would be difficult to gather all the medicinal ingredients he needed. But he also could substitute the ingredients with other medicinal herbs of the same efficacies. "Young big brother, are you here to buy medicinal ingredients?" A bearded middle-aged man pushing a cart stopped and asked as he saw Tang Xiu. Tang Xiu said, "Yes." The bearded middle-aged man said with a laugh, "Young big brother wants to buy a lot of medicinal ingredients? If so, how about hiring my porter service? The price is very cheap." "Porter?" Tang Xiu asked inside with some puzzlement. After having heard the bearded middle-aged man's explanation, only then did he understand that porter was the service offered by some people for visitors who bought a large number of medicinal herbs as they followed the visitor, along with their carts, helping the visitor to carry and load the herbs. He thought for a second as he nodded and asked, "How much?" With a happy expression, the bearded middle-aged man hastily said, 100 yuan per 2 hours if you only buy a cart of herbs. 200 yuan for 5 hours. If you buy more than one cart, I recommend to directly take a day package of 500 yuan for a day. Tang Xiu pondered for a moment and then asked, "You're familiar with this medicinal herb market, yes?" The bearded middle-aged man said with a grinning smile, "Yes, I'm way too familiar. I've been a porter for 8 years here, so I know which stalls have good medicinal herbs, and which ones don't. I'm crystal clear what herbs the shops have, and which shops that have genuine valuable medicinal herbs. If you buy my porter service, I'll take the responsibility to become your guide and explain to you about the medicinal herbs market situation." Tang Xiu said, "I'll give you 1,000 yuan. You're to be my porter for the day." Doubled? The bearded middle-aged man was overjoyed. His expression turned more respectful and said with a smile, "Young big brother is a good man. I, Xiao Dazhuang, will absolutely make your spending worth it. What medicinal herbs do you need? You can tell me and I'll take you there in no time." Tang Xiu shook his head and said, "You accompany me first. If I can't find and buy the medicinal herbs I want, then you guide me." "Okay." The bearded middle-aged man happily complied. 2 hours later, Tang Xiu had bought all the needed ingredients to concoct the Golden Bell liquid, and the number he bought each ingredient was 10 times more. The small cart pushed by the bearded middle-aged man was about to be fully filled. When Tang Xiu had just finished the last transaction and was prepared to continue buying the other herbs to concoct the spirit condensation pill, he suddenly saw that in the middle of the square, a booth and shop area was surrounded by a lot of people. A lot of people ran from all directions toward that place. The bearded middle-aged man followed Tang Xiu's eyes as he suddenly shook his head and said with a wry smile, "A 100-year-old mother has always been able to bring up 80 children. A mother surely is the greatest human being in the world. How many times has it been? The 16th time?" Tang Xiu said, "What does that mean?" The bearded middle-aged man said, 2 years ago, a mother and daughter came to our medicinal herbs market. The mother was 40 years old at that time, and her daughter was still very young and very pitiful. She suffers from a strange disease and has always been suffering from pains. In order to cure her daughter's illness, the mother has traveled to all major cities in the country, looking for famous doctors everywhere. Unfortunately, even though she has met countless Western medical doctors or Chinese medical doctors, nobody was able to cure her daughter's strange illness. During these 2 years, she always comes with her daughter and takes a spot in the square of this medicinal herbs market, having consultations with all doctors to treat her daughter's illness. She also announced that anyone who is able to cure her daughter, she would give him millions worth of her family assets. 2 years have passed by and not only was she unable to find a godly doctor to cure her daughter, she also has spent most of the 1 million she has. It's been 2 months since the last time she opened the spot here. The last time, she only had hundreds of thousands of yuan, so now, she should have less." Tang Xiu was in a daze as he looked at the bearded middle-aged man. His heart was filled with sorrow and grief. The caring and loving mother's hands moved along the lines of the jacket on his body, slowly closing the seam button before he left, and reminding him to not return home late. Mothers were indeed the greatest humans in the world. And the person he missed the most when he was in the immortal world for 10,000 years was his mother. The thing he was holding in the palm of his hand fell as his mouth was unable to speak the mother word. At this instant, his compassion was moved. "Let's go there and take a look." The moment Tang Xiu finished speaking, he strode to the square between the booth and shop area. In the middle-sized square center, a half-meter-high platform was built whilst a few medicinal herbs market security guards were maintaining the order there. A single bed with a curled-up and trembling little girl was placed at the center of the 20-square-meter platform. A graceful middle-aged woman was at the bedside with a pitiful and sad face as she constantly looked around at the crowd, with a longing expression. "Everyone, the remaining money I have is only 300,000 yuan. I beg whoever is able to cure my daughter. I'll give all the remaining wealth I have. She's too young. There should be a lot of Chinese medical doctors at this Jingmen Island's medicinal herbs market. Please, I beg you.